Hello, Taylor Jackson here. Thank you for joining me on another day of the podcast. I really appreciate you making this part of your day or your commute or lunch or treadmill time or wherever you're listening to this. I really appreciate you being here. Today I have a bit of an exciting announcement, and that announcement is something that I definitely wouldn't have thought of being a thing a couple of weeks ago. And as a singular photographer, Lindsay, my wife, is also a photographer, but we run completely independent businesses. As a single photographer or a single studio photographer, I never really saw the need for studio space, that I can do everything from home, that I feel more comfortable having everything at home, my hard drives, my workflow. And I never really had the idea for a studio space. Like, I have no dreams, even now, of doing like white wall backdrop shoots of people. That is not what the studio is for. The studio, essentially what's happening is like an amazing space kind of went up, and I created a new business to suit that space. And I think that it's going to be pretty cool. I can't really announce the official business model of it yet, because I want to see if it actually works first before I start sharing that, and maybe other people kind of going down that same route. But I think it will be successful. We technically get possession in January. So January 15th, we get this space. And I'm actually going to be in Japan on a snowboard trip at that time. So Lindsay and Jeff Gadway, we're kind of doing like a three-person share in this space. And I guess they get first dibs on whatever they want to make that space until I come home. So if I know Lindsay, which I do, I'm going to say there's going to be a wall, and she's going to spend about $1,000 on plants, and that wall is just all going to be plants by the time I get back. And Jeff, he might have a nice desk and a place to put his laptop. I think I'm similar to Jeff, that all I need is something very, very basic and similar. And I think Lindsay really wants to use it. So I guess my use case, to go back on that a little bit, is that I'm going to be using it more so as a video commercial space rather than a photography space. I think that there is kind of a big opportunity in this local market, and with the amount of people just wanting to create video, I think that I'm going to be able to create something that is really desirable in this area. Lindsay, for photography specifically, just wants a place to be able to do indoor shoots, because for the longest time we've just done everything out in parks, and parks are great when you have a couple shoots scheduled, but she has some days where she is scheduling upwards of like 8, 10, 12 shoots on a day, specifically for like Christmas sessions. Like Saturdays or Sundays in October are specifically really busy. And if you get one like fully rainy Sunday and it bumps out like 12 sessions and you have to reschedule those, that becomes a bit of a struggle. So now she's able to do those shoots in a controlled space, controlled lighting, controlled environment, no weather. And also, we're up here in Southern Ontario, and Southern Ontario is, I guess, like a little bit of a challenging environment to shoot all year. So I would say from like this point in November until maybe the second or third week of March, unless you want to do like outdoor winter, and your skin tone doesn't get like crazy red whenever you go outside, there's no real reason, I would say, to do photos outside, at least the style of photography that we do. I will do maybe 1 or 2 sessions for my engaged couples that are getting married next year, that are getting married maybe in the summer, and they want a winter shoot. And then I'll also have usually maybe 3 or 4 winter weddings locally as well. And I guess like the challenge with that is that the days just get dark so early that it's scheduling is a little bit weird, because you can't just do like a weekday evening, that you have to kind of do like a weekday at 4 p.m. if you want to be able to actually do a shoot outside. So now Lindsay will be able to do those shoots inside, which is awesome. We'll also have that space set up, and for like networking and all those things that are kind of the surprise assets of having a space, I think it's going to be very, very good. I think it's also cool just to kind of have an office with Jeff Gadway, who he runs a company called Galvanize Worldwide, which is a PR company for different companies and different humans. So it's, I think, really interesting, and something maybe to be learned for all photographers, that if you just exist in the photography space and you're only listening to business advice from other photographers, that at some point, like, everything is just kind of getting recycled and rehashed, and no new ideas are really entering that space. Whereas if you talk with somebody that maybe handles things for tech companies or blockchain or whatever, there are new and interesting ideas that would come from that, as well as interesting ideas that come from our side as well that we take for granted in the photography industry that maybe other aspects of business don't actually know about. So I think it will be a good thing to be able to work very closely together, and I have a lot to learn. So I'm going to bring Jeff on the podcast eventually. I know I keep saying that, but I really will. So yes, so the space is a kind of a new business, I guess, that it's not going to be, it's a continuation of my current business, but it's something entirely new. So it will be an adventure for me. I like starting from zero. I like the journey. I like just the process of creating something and seeing if it works and figuring out exactly how to actually book dates and get people into the studio to shoot. And then we're going to do a show as well. So I guess this is, if you're part of the Patreon, the Secret Podcast specifically, I talk about this a lot. And the fact, I guess, like different strategies of how to become a media personality in your local area. And what we're going to be doing is creating a lot of video content that really is pretty much for everyone in our local area. The idea is just to get a little bit more known around town, to have a bit more of a platform to be able to create from, as well as a little bit more visibility, that if anyone ever actually needs video or photography, that we're going to be the first people that they think of. And I think that it's a pretty good plan. I'm excited to roll that out. That might be the most exciting part of the studio, is the fact that I now have a space, because while I love filming everything at home, and if you watch my YouTube channel, if you went through the 30-day free wedding photography course on that YouTube channel, you probably saw me shoot in every possible direction of like every room in the house. And now it will be nice to actually have a modular space. We talked with our friend Alex Hicknell. He's making us like a nice desk, so we'll actually have some sort of like structure and kind of like a newsroom, I guess, in a way. But it will be a lot simpler and easier to be able to teach in that space that's constantly set up for it. So that is the thing that I am the most looking forward to. If you are a photographer and you're thinking about like, oh, like it'd be really nice to have a studio, I would urge you to maybe think long and hard about it, because usually a commercial commitment is a little bit longer than a lease. So it's like a 2 or 3 year term. So once you're in it, you're kind of like in it for a little while, unless you sublet it out or you find someone to take over your lease. And I've seen lots of different business models that should theoretically work, just not work so well, or that they did work for a bit, but you get burned out really quickly on doing like high volume sales and working just to pay for your studio, which is something that I've always wanted to avoid. The fact that like, I don't want to book an extra 15 shoots or something, or an extra 5 shoots or 3 shoots or whatever the math is, to pay for my studio and be working for that space every single month, because I find that stressful, and I almost feel like that's like having a boss that's giving you like sales goals that you need to hit this. I would rather go at my own speed, and if I want to run a sale, I would run a sale, but I don't want to be forced into it financially, because I feel like that's when you make I guess like more desperate decisions. So by having a space, you kind of do sign yourself up for that. And I've also seen like that what sounds the best, which is usually like if you get a space and you share it between like a wedding planner and a photographer and a florist or a decorator, or you get a bunch of different wedding vendors in a room, that sounds like it's going to work out really well and that it's going to do a lot of good business for everyone. But I've seen that blow up a lot of relationships, sadly. I've seen it happen maybe like six times maybe in my 15 years, with close friends being part of it. So if you are going to go down that route, it sounds pretty attractive, but it is a lot more challenging in real life than it is kind of in thoughts and concepts. So think about it for, I would say, like a year before you jump on a space, unless you absolutely need one. If you're a commercial photographer and like you need to be photographing cars on like a white wall, seamless, then like obviously you're going to need some space. The issue, I guess, with being around here is that there are very few good studio spaces that are publicly available for rent. So it will be nice to have our own. It will not be as big. I won't be able to bring a car in there, but it will be big enough for us and for what we need. So exciting things. Hopefully it works out. We'll find out together. But either way, we'll be creating more video content on the internet. So And that will also have somebody that's like editing and shooting it. So it will be more consistent and it will be weekly. Unlike my YouTube channel that kind of like goes for months and gets populated with content every single day and then back to like once every other week, which is kind of the current cycle that I'm in right now. But I guess my mind really does go in seasons when it comes to creating content that, and same with consuming content as well, that I'll go really deep on a bunch of podcasts for a long time. And then for like 3 months, I don't listen to a single podcast. And I think that it kind of recycles and like refreshes your mind whenever you kind of have that mental break. So that's why I create a lot of video content. And then I guess I'm really ambitious to get it out there. I don't want to just like schedule it out over a couple of months. I would way rather just like get it out there and get it done right now. So that's the way that my mind thinks, and that I think that is a good way to be thinking kind of in this this economy. Like I really do feel like you need to be creating some sort of content every single day to be somebody in your industry. So take that as like going out and doing your own shoots and getting friends together, family together, just creating things for the sake of creating things and pushing yourself and your skills forward. And maybe a studio space helps you with that. Maybe you can just rent a studio space. Maybe there's an abandoned building that you can just use, which is kind of funny because there are a few buildings around here that do have some commercial space in them, but they're open all the time and they're very nice to shoot inside and nobody hassles you. So if you can find a building like that, by all means use it until they kick you out, and just shoot as much as you can every single day, create new work, and that is how you're going to be successful over time, and that's how you're going to find your voice as an artist, and that's how you're going to find what you're actually passionate about doing, because what you're doing in photography right now might not be exactly what you're going to be passionate about 2 years from now. So the faster you can find that and kind of double or triple down on that, the better. So thank you for listening to today's podcast. I am Taylor Jackson, and I will see you on tomorrow's podcast. Also, a 49-minute podcast went up, The Secret Podcast, on Patreon earlier this week. So if you're interested in a longer podcast that is entirely focused on business, head over there and sign up for that. Or if you're a member there and you haven't yet listened to it, I do recommend it. And if you have any questions for that specific podcast, where I will answer anything to do with my business, feel free to just chime in the comments, Secret Podcast number 4, and I will answer it in Secret Podcast number 5. See you tomorrow.